I'm 104 years old. I say that out loud sometimes just to hear it land. And it still surprises me that I'm here, sitting in this chair, with so much of my life already gone and so much of it never lived the way I secretly wanted. Most mornings, I wake up before the sun, not because I'm disciplined, because my body doesn't let me sleep long anymore. The house is quiet then, too quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight to it. I listen to it and think about all the mornings I rushed through when noise filled my life and I couldn't wait to get out the door. At this age, people expect gratitude, and I do have it. I've lived a long time. I've seen things change in ways I never imagined. But gratitude and regret can sit in the same body. They do in mine. They talk to each other when I'm alone, and regret has gotten louder these past few years. I'm not telling this because I want comfort. I don't need reassurance. I'm telling it because time has made me honest, and honesty doesn't feel optional anymore. When you reach this far, you don't lie to yourself. There's no point. People think regret comes from big mistakes, from disasters, from reckless choices. Mine didn't. Mine came from being careful, from waiting, from telling myself, not yet, from believing there would be more time. When I look back now, I don't see one wrong turn. I see a long, straight road I stayed on because it felt safe. Everyone else was on it. The signs were familiar. Work, responsibility, approval. I followed it so faithfully that I never noticed how far it took me from myself. In my 20s, I wasn't unhappy. That's important to say. I had energy, friends, plans. I worked a job that made sense. It paid enough. People respected it. My parents slept better knowing I wasn't doing anything risky. I told myself I was being smart. There was something else I wanted, though. Something quieter, harder to explain. It didn't have a clear shape, which made it easy to ignore. It showed up as a feeling more than an idea, a pull, a curiosity, a sense that there was another version of my life I wasn't brave enough to step into. I used to sit on the edge of my bed at night, shoes still on, lights off, imagining a different day, not a fantasy life, just a different one where my hours belonged to me a little more, where I said yes to things that scared me instead of things that impressed others. But every morning, I put the shoes back on and went where I was expected to go. In my 30s, life got heavier. That's when responsibility really settles in. Bills, commitments, other people depending on you. The idea of changing course starts to feel selfish, dangerous. I told myself I couldn't afford to be uncertain anymore, that wanting something different was childish. So I doubled down. I worked harder. I became reliable. I became the person others leaned on. That feels good. For a while. Being needed has a warmth to it. It makes you feel solid, necessary. What I didn't notice was what I stopped doing. I stopped wondering. I stopped daydreaming. I stopped asking myself hard questions. Not all at once. Slowly, like turning the volume down one notch at a time. There were moments, though, small ones. A conversation that lingered with me longer than it should have. A letter I never sent. An invitation I declined because it was inconvenient. None of them felt tragic. That's how it happens. If regret announced itself loudly, we might listen. But it whispers. I told myself I was lucky, and I was. in many ways. That made it even easier to stay put. Complaining felt ungrateful. Wanting more felt like an insult to what I already had. So I swallowed the feeling and called it maturity. In my 40s, time started to move faster. Or maybe I just noticed it more. Years passed without much difference between them. Same routines, same conversations, same reassurances I gave myself when that old restlessness surfaced. I remember standing in the kitchen one evening, staring at the sink full of dishes, and feeling this sudden, sharp thought. Is this it? It startled me. I didn't like it. I pushed it away and turned on the radio to drown it out. That's something I became very good at. Drowning things out, filling silence with noise, filling doubt with duty, filling days so full there was no room left for honesty. The cost didn't arrive as pain. It arrived as numbness, a quiet flattening. Life kept happening, but I felt like I was watching it from a step back. I laughed when I was supposed to. I showed up. I did well. But something in me stayed untouched, unused. I didn't know then that unused parts of you don't disappear. They wait, patiently, and one day, much later, they stand in front of you and ask why you left them behind. Now, at 104, I understand that I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of choosing. Because choosing one life means letting the others die, and I kept all those other lives alive in my head by never stepping into any of them. That felt safer. It wasn't. In my 50s, people started saying things like, "You've built a good life." They meant it as praise. I nodded and accepted it the way you accept a gift. You're not sure you want it but don't know how to refuse. By then, the idea of changing anything felt almost absurd. I had momentum, a reputation, a rhythm. The days came pre-filled. Wake up, go where I was needed, come home tired enough not to think too hard. I told myself that was peace. There were moments when the old feeling came back. Usually when I was alone, driving long distances, standing in line somewhere unfamiliar, hearing someone talk about a risk they took, and pretending I admired them without envy. Envy is an uncomfortable word, especially when you've done everything right, so I didn't use it. I called it curiosity, or nostalgia, or nothing at all. I remember a man I worked with, younger than me. He quit one day. No drama, just handed in his notice. Said he wanted to try something else while he still had the nerve. People shook their heads at him. Said he was throwing away security. I said the same things out loud. Inside, something in me went very still. That night, I sat at the table long after dinner, staring at my hands. They looked capable, strong, like hands that could have built something else if I'd asked them to. I didn't. I washed the dishes and went to bed. That's how most of my turning points looked. Quiet, ordinary, easy to step past. In my 60s, loss began to visit more often. Parents first, friends next. Funerals became familiar. Each one carried the same strange lesson. Life ends, whether you've lived the one you wanted or not. That thought would rise up, sharp and clear, and then fade as routine took over again. After one funeral, I went home and opened an old box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were scraps of my younger self, notes, half-finished ideas, letters that never found their way to envelopes. I sat on the floor and read them slowly, like they were written by someone I used to know. There was tenderness there, hope, a kind of courage that hadn't been tested yet. I felt embarrassed for that younger version of me, and protective, and sad, mostly sad. I put the box back and told myself it was too late to matter. That phrase became a habit. Too late. Too late to change. Too late to start. Too late to explain. I used it generously. The way people use sugar to make things go down easier. It dulled the ache. It didn't remove it. In my 70s, my body began to argue with me. Small betrayals at first. Slower mornings. Stiffer joints. The mirror stopped recognizing me. I watched myself age with the same quiet compliance I'd watched my life pass. This, too, I accepted. People started asking about retirement plans, about what I'd do with all that time. I smiled. I didn't know how to tell them that time wasn't something I knew how to hold anymore. I had spent so long giving it away that keeping it felt unfamiliar. When I finally had space, I didn't know what to put in it. That surprised me. I thought freedom would feel like relief. Instead, it felt like standing in an empty room with no furniture and realizing you'd forgotten what you liked to sit on. I tried things. Small, safe versions of old dreams. Nothing reckless. Nothing that would draw attention. They felt pleasant. They did not feel alive. I realized then that courage has an expiration date, not a sudden one. It just thins out over time if you don't use it. The real turning point didn't come with fireworks. It came with a phone call, a voice on the other end, steady and careful, telling me that someone I had loved in my own quiet way was gone. Not someone I spoke to often, not someone I'd fought to keep close. Someone I had always assumed would be there, somewhere in the background of my life. After I hung up, I sat very still. I felt something settle in me, like dust after a door closes. The realization wasn't dramatic. It was plain. There would be no revisiting certain conversations, no explaining what I never said, no chance to be braver with that person than I had been. That's when I understood that delay is a decision. I had spent my life thinking I was postponing things. In truth, I was choosing against them, quietly, every day. The weight of that understanding didn't crush me. It hollowed me out. In the years since, I've had a lot of time to sit with that hollow space. Time doesn't heal everything. Sometimes it just gives you room to see the shape of what's missing. I don't hate my life. That's important to say. There were good days, kind moments, people who mattered. But there is a particular grief that comes from knowing you were capable of a different kind of fullness and never stepped into it. It's not loud grief. It doesn't demand attention. It waits until the house is quiet and the body is tired and the future is no longer a distraction. That's when it speaks. Now I'm here, at 104, which is a number that feels more like a rumor than a fact. Most of the people who knew me when I was young are gone, even the ones who stayed cautious like I did. Time doesn't reward restraint. It just keeps moving. My days are small now. That's not a complaint. They're just narrow. I wake up. I sit. I eat what's put in front of me. I watch light move across the room. I listen to the sounds of other people living lives that are still in motion. Sometimes they ask me questions. Nurses, visitors. What's the secret? They say. How did you live so long? I want to tell them the truth. But the truth isn't neat. Longevity isn't wisdom. Staying alive isn't the same as being alive. I usually smile and say something harmless. Genetics. Luck. Nothing useful. What I don't say is that living a long time gives regret more room to stretch out. There's no one moment I replay again and again. It's more like a pattern I can't unsee. The habit of choosing what felt sensible over what felt true. The habit of telling myself I'd do the other thing later. When things calmed down, when I had more security, when I was older, when I was younger, when it made sense. It rarely made sense. I think about the life I didn't choose, the way you think about a place you almost moved to. You don't know it exactly, but you can imagine it clearly enough to miss it. I don't romanticize it anymore. I know it would have had its own disappointments, its own fears, its own losses. That's not what hurts. What hurts is knowing I never gave myself the chance to find out who I might have been if I'd trusted that quiet voice instead of silencing it. There are relationships that stayed shallow because I didn't lean in. Conversations that stayed polite because I didn't risk honesty. Years that blurred together because I was always preparing for a future I never arrived in. I used to think being remembered meant something, leaving a mark. Now I understand how quickly even good lives fade from memory. Names get misplaced. Stories get shortened. Objects get boxed up. What remains is not what you achieved. It's how you showed up. And I didn't always show up as fully as I could have. Loneliness in old age isn't just about being alone. It's about carrying things you never shared. Choices you never explained, versions of yourself that no one ever met. Those are heavy companions. If I speak to you now, it's not to warn you. I don't believe in warnings anymore. People live the lives they're ready to live. I can only tell you what I wish I'd understood sooner. Time feels abundant right up until it doesn't. Delay feels harmless right up until it's permanent. And safety can become a cage if you never question it. You don't need to blow up your life. I'm not saying that. I'm saying pay attention to the things you keep postponing without a clear reason. The phone call you keep meaning to make. The path you keep circling but never stepping onto. The truth you keep softening so no one feels uncomfortable. Those are not small things. They're the shape of a life forming quietly. If this means something to you, hold it gently. You don't need to act today. Just don't lie to yourself about what you want. That's where I went wrong. As for me, there's not much left to change. My courage days are behind me. What I have now is acceptance. Not the peaceful kind people like to imagine. A plain one. A steady one. I sit with my memories, the ones I made, the ones I didn't. I forgive myself when I can. I miss who I might have been, and I let the day end when it's ready. That's all that's left now, and it's enough to tell the truth before I go.